People are mad about the new challenge mode in Wizard101. Y'all, this is something that I think everybody was super excited about, and their expectations were very different. I don't know if y'all been following the videos, but they had to like put out a teaser, and then people were like misinterpreting the teaser, and then they did the teaser again. Basically, there's been a lot of controversy over this, and I just wanted to put my 2 cents into this because I feel like it's something worth talking about. So if you've been living under a whole ass rock, right? They basically, a big part of Test Realm was what they basically added, which was challenge mode. And this seems to be very much in the early process. So like, I wouldn't really take this as like, you know, as it is yet. But basically, there are 3 sigils in Test Realm that you can click the challenge mode on, and if you do, and you join, it basically turns red, and then it's like a harder version of the fight. Now, this got a lot of people excited because, right, like, there's a lot of these, you know, really decent bosses, nothing too crazy, and a lot of the hardcore players wanted more of a challenge. So basically, right, in this fight, the Hall of Heroes, like, the fight, it's kind of doable. The game plan right now in Live Realm is just to go in and spam AoEs as well as you can. So when people clicked on this challenge mode, what they expected to see was a version of the Hall of Heroes that would be harder to fight and basically not able to just be AoE spammed until they were dead. But what ended up happening was very different, and this is why people are giving a lot of opinions on this. The challenge mode in Hall of Heroes is actually the current Live Realm version of the fight, meaning what they added for this specific instance to a lot of people isn't really challenge mode. It's actually what the new thing they added was an easier version of the fight that you can always do. So if I were to go into a normal sigil, I would actually be going against the 8 bosses that we know and love in this, you know, sigil, but they would be like way easier. Like, they wouldn't be cheating. They would have way lower HP. So like, you guys can see, right, like compared to the normal fight, like they have way less HP, and it seems like they just don't cheat, right? So this is just a very watered down version of the fight. And if you do want a hard version of the fight, which is essentially what it is in Live Realm right now, you can click on challenge mode. Now, let's talk about why they would do this, right? I think this is very important. I think this is 100% to make the main storyline as casual friendly as possible. And the reason for that is just because there are more people that are casual players than not. And I think this is something that I'm very disappointed by a lot of people that play a lot. I don't know. I'm disappointed by the fact that they can't grasp this. A lot of people are giving King's Isle a super hard time about this, yada. At the end of the day, the game at its base should not be difficult. I don't think that's the whole point of the game. There's so many other elements that make Wiz special, like the music, like the storytelling, the plot. You don't need to have extremely hard fights or extremely hard to get gear in order to make this game feel special. That's something that a lot of people need to get in their head. And second, just because this is the rollout that they've chosen for this thing that they're calling challenge mode, it does not mean that something called hard mode is not being worked on. We have confirmation that there is going to be a harder version of a lot of things, and we've also seen evidence that they're capable of making really hard content with the first edition of Raid. So I feel like a lot of the outrage is super misplaced. That being said, I think the use of the word challenge mode is extremely problematic on KI's side, and I think they need to rethink how they name things in the future. Challenge mode insinuates that there's going to be something new that we haven't seen because it's not in Live Realm, and it's going to be challenging. Challenge mode does not like give off the message that you're going to go in and you're going to get the same thing that you're used to, and by not clicking the new thing, you're going to get something easier. That is not what that name, like, you know, insinuates. I don't think they should change the name to easy mode because that's just stupid, because I feel like that's just like, I don't know, it's just bad marketing. But I feel like they do need a more clever way of naming things so that it doesn't get miscommunicated so hard, especially when it comes to spoilers, and especially when it comes to the day the test run launches. Now, let's talk about drops, and this seems to be what other people have an issue with, other than the fact that they were promised something that they didn't get. And it's the idea that if you do the easier version of the fight, you probably aren't going to get drops, and it's essentially a way for casual players to miss out on stuff that they otherwise would not have missed out on. And while that's a valid argument, there's nothing stopping someone from doing the default easy mode first and then coming back and farming it. So that is also another argument that I don't get. I actually tried playing the challenge mode on the Triton boss and also Sapidius, which is the Medulla, you know, the Medulla instance. And when I did them, it was just as easy as it was in Live Realm, and I just realized at that point that there isn't anything that new with this specific feature. If anything, it's in its initial rollout, and it's probably going to be a part of a much bigger series of changes that is going to happen into the game. I think one instance that really made this issue kind of clear to me, and this is kind of why I'm making this video, when the last boss of Novus came out and everyone couldn't figure out how to do it and team up was a disaster, what ended up happening is a bunch of people found a way to exploit it and basically just glitch their drop. But because it was so widespread and because so many people were taking advantage of glitches to get drops and because so many people weren't able to do the bosses, because of that, KI had absolutely no choice but to literally say, you know what, it's our fault, we're gonna make the boss not glitchable, and then we're gonna call it a day. That is an extreme big mess, in my opinion, because one, the people that did it legitimately and wanted a real challenge, they had no reward for it. Two, the people that, you know, maybe wanted to learn how to do the boss could not use team up and learn how to do the boss because too many people were glitching it. Nobody wins in that situation, which is exactly why that glitch was completely, you know, like brushed under the rug and they called it a day. But what if challenge mode existed before and the default was an easier way of doing the boss, and the challenge mode is what we have now, right? As in, like, you use your school pips, you, like, you know, like, figure out how to defeat the forms. If challenge mode had existed before the final boss of Novus was a thing, not only would the hardcore players have an easier way of getting drops by doing a harder version, but also team up would not have been an absolute disaster, hence forcing a bunch of people to think that glitching the game is something that they actually prefer to do. Based on that incident alone, I feel like this is a good feature to have. Whether it's a game-changing thing or not at the moment, it's something that I think should be applied in the future, and that's very important. I think just because of the problems that it's capable of solving, challenge mode is something they should add to the game. I'll say this, I think it's not a highlight of this update. I think the highlight of this update is Rate My Stitch. I think it's the spell changes, which are actually very huge, and obviously the new gauntlet. That's completely new content for the spring. I don't think they should have made even a deal out of making a spoiler out of it. They shouldn't have made a big deal out of it because it got people excited for something that it's just not that big of a deal. It just fixes issues for people in the future, if anything. All in all, though, I am pretty okay with challenge mode being a feature that they could, you know, implement in future worlds, because now it's very easy to make the baseline just tolerable for people that just want to go through the quest line and enjoy the game. But for hardcore players, we're talking about PvPers, we're talking about people that want perfect stats, people that want harder fights for a higher drop rate. Maybe this is the avenue that they're going to use, and that's something to celebrate, if anything. I don't know, that's the way I'm looking at this whole thing. I've seen a lot of people straight up angry over this. It's kind of weird to watch. So that's kind of why I wanted to weigh in. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think the challenge mode will be good for the game? Do you guys think that the Novus final boss is the reason they even thought about this? And in the future, how do you guys think they should balance challenge mode and drop rates for gear? Because I feel like that's the most important conversation to have. Let me know all of y'all's opinions in the comments. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.